Generally speaking, we are right to be guided by experts, and we're right to be very skeptical of novices who claim to have overturned expert opinion. Much of our society has a very childish view of how to respond to this problem. Many people apparently believe that just having more unfettered dialogue on social media and on podcasts and in newsletters is the answer. But it's not. I'm not taking a position against free speech here. I'm all for free speech. I'm taking a position against weaponized misinformation and a contrarian attitude that nullifies the distinction between real knowledge, which can be quite hard won, and ignorance or mere speculation. And I'm advocating a personal ethic of not pretending to know things one doesn't know. So one of the offending Instagram quotes read, "During the pandemic, we witnessed the birth of a new religion of contrarianism and conspiracy thinking, the first sacrament of which is, quote, do your own research. The problem is that very few people are qualified to do this research, and the result is a society driven by strongly held, unfounded opinions on everything from vaccine safety to the war in Ukraine." And many people took offense to that, as though it was a statement of mere elitism. But anyone who has followed this podcast knows that I include myself in that specific criticism. I'm also unqualified to do the, quote, research that so many millions of people imagine they're doing. I wasn't saying that I know everything about vaccine safety or the war in Ukraine. I'm saying that we need experts in those areas to tell us what is real or likely to be real and what's misinformation. And this is why I've declined to have certain debates on this podcast that many people have been urging me to have, and even alleging that it's a sign of hypocrisy or cowardice on my part that I won't have these debates. There are public health emergencies and geopolitical emergencies that simply require trust in institutions. They require that we acknowledge the difference between informed expertise and mere speculation or amateurish sleuthing. And when our institutions and experts fail us, that's not a moment to tear everything down. That's the moment where we need to do the necessary work of making them trustworthy again. And I admit, in many cases, it's not clear how to do that, at least not quickly. I think detecting and nullifying bad incentives is a major part of the solution. But what isn't a part of the solution at all is asking someone like Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson or even Elon Musk or Joe Rogan or Brett Weinstein or me what we think about the safety of mRNA vaccines or what we think about the nuclear risk posed by the war in Ukraine. Our information ecosystem is so polluted and our trust in institutions so degraded, again, in many cases for good reason, that we have people who are obviously unqualified to have strong opinions about ongoing emergencies, dictating what millions of people believe about those emergencies, and therefore dictating whether we as a society can cooperate to solve them. Most people shouldn't be doing their own research, and I'm not saying we should blindly trust the first experts we meet. If you're facing a difficult medical decision, get a second opinion, get a third opinion. But most people shouldn't be jumping on PubMed and reading abstracts from medical journals. Again, depending on the topic, this applies to me too. So the truth is, if I get cancer, I might do a little research, but I'm not going to pretend to be an oncologist. The rational thing for me to do, even with my background in science, is to find the best oncologists I can find and ask them what they think. Of course, it's true that any specific expert can be wrong or biased, and that's why you get second and third opinions. And it's also why we should be generally guided by scientific consensus, wherever a consensus exists. And this remains the best practice even when we know that there's an infinite number of things we don't know. So while I recognize that the last few years has created a lot of uncertainty and anxiety and given a lot of motivation to contrarianism, And the world of podcasts and newsletters and Twitter threads has exploded as an alternative to institutional sources of information. The truth is, we can't do without a culture of real expertise, and we absolutely need the institutions that produce it and communicate it. And I say that as someone who lives and works and thrives entirely outside of these institutions. So I'm not defending my own nest. I'm simply noticing that Substack and Spotify and YouTube and Twitter are not substitutes for universities and scientific journals and governmental organizations that we can trust. And we have to stop acting like they might be.